But don't try and trick me now, because I'm not going to play this game. Delete that bit. John, can you just delete it, please, that bit? Because I don't want to go down this...
Duchess, I'm asking very fair questions of you.
No.
Something big just happened inside the British royal family. And this time, it has nothing to do with Meghan or Harry. It's Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, making headlines again for a move so bold that even her closest friends are calling it dangerous. Reports say Fergie is about to take a step that could completely destroy her last remaining ties to the monarchy. And the reaction inside Buckingham Palace? Pure chaos. One insider even called it the most reckless thing she's ever done. For years, Fergie has been walking a fragile line, close enough to the royals to stay relevant, but far enough away to avoid the drama. But now, she's apparently ready to cross that line completely. Some say it's out of anger, others say desperation. Whatever the reason, this move could change everything. Because if what's being whispered in royal circles is true, Fergie isn't just upset, she's planning payback. And that payback could come in the form of a tell-all memoir, one that promises to expose private royal secrets the palace hoped would never see daylight. You can imagine the panic this has caused behind closed doors. The royals are terrified, her daughters are reportedly heartbroken, and King Charles himself is said to be furious. For a family that thrives on control and silence, this is their worst nightmare. Someone from within breaking the unspoken rule: never turn on the crown. And here's what makes this even more explosive. Fergie's timing couldn't be worse. The palace is already struggling with public criticism, shrinking popularity, and financial backlash over royal spending. One wrong move could make the monarchy look fractured all over again. So why would Fergie do this? Why now, when she's finally managed to stay out of scandal for years? Is it revenge, regret, or simply her last attempt to reclaim the voice the royals took away decades ago? Because one thing's for sure, this isn't just another royal rumor. It's a calculated move, and the shockwaves are already being felt across the entire family. But to really understand how this moment became so dangerous, we need to go back to the years of jealousy, resentment, and family feuds that built the tension now threatening to explode. Behind the polished smiles and royal handshakes, there's a decades-long feud that most people outside the palace never truly see. King Charles and Prince Andrew, two brothers raised under the same roof, but living in completely different worlds. From the start, they couldn't have been more opposite. Charles was always the dutiful heir, serious, measured, and constantly under pressure to protect the family's image. Andrew, on the other hand, was the charming, carefree one, the favorite for a time, the fun prince. But as the years went on, that fun started looking more like recklessness, and eventually, like a liability. The breaking point came with the scandals that nearly destroyed the monarchy's reputation. Charles, already fighting to modernize the institution, was left cleaning up the mess. And make no mistake, he hasn't forgiven his brother for it. In fact, many inside sources claim Charles sees Andrew as the reason the monarchy's credibility took one of its worst hits in history. And where does Fergie fit into all this? Right in the middle. Despite divorcing Andrew decades ago, Fergie never really left his side. They still live together at Royal Lodge. Yes, together, even after all the disgrace and public shame. To some, it's loyalty. To the palace, it's a reminder of everything they want to forget. When King Charles ascended the throne, there was quiet hope that he'd show compassion, maybe give Andrew and Fergie a softer landing. But instead, Charles tightened the circle. He made it clear that only working royals, the ones bringing value to the crown, would stay in the spotlight. Andrew was out. Fergie was out. No titles, no duties, no official role. Still, there was one thing the king didn't take away: their home. And that's where the next chapter of this royal drama begins. Because the peace didn't last, and what happened next would push Fergie from silence to outright defiance. Royal Lodge, a grand 30-room mansion tucked away on the Windsor estate. For most people, it's just another royal property. But for Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew, it's everything. Their home, their sanctuary, and the last visible reminder that they once belonged to the heart of the royal world. For years, the two lived there quietly, far from royal duties, but close enough to stay relevant. It was an unusual arrangement, a divorced couple living together under one roof, but it worked for them. It was the one piece of stability they had left. But behind the walls of Buckingham Palace, that arrangement didn't sit well with King Charles. When Charles became king, he made a promise to modernize the monarchy, to cut costs, remove non-working royals, and protect the royal image. To him, Royal Lodge symbolized everything wrong with the old system: privilege without purpose. And Andrew, living in luxury while still under public disgrace, was a constant reminder of past humiliation. So when whispers began that the king wanted Andrew and Fergie out of Royal Lodge, people didn't believe it. But as months passed, those whispers turned into quiet, strategic moves. Officials began reviewing expenses, maintenance budgets were slashed, private conversations were leaked to the press about streamlining royal properties. The writing was on the wall. Royal Lodge was no longer theirs. For Andrew, it was humiliating. But for Fergie, it was personal. After years of trying to rebuild her reputation, charity work, public speaking, her books, and her calm demeanor, being pushed out of her home felt like the final betrayal. It wasn't just a property dispute, it was the palace reminding her that she would never truly belong again. And this time, Fergie wasn't staying quiet. Sources close to her say she's been fuming behind the scenes, feeling abandoned, disrespected, and deeply wronged. Some say that eviction notice was the breaking point, the moment she decided she wouldn't be silenced anymore. Because when the royals take away your place in their world, sometimes your only weapon left is your story. And that's exactly what Fergie may be preparing to unleash. Whispers started quietly. A few vague comments from friends, a couple of leaks to the press. But soon the rumor spread like wildfire. Fergie is writing a book, not just any book, a full-blown tell-all memoir that could expose royal secrets, personal conversations, and hidden grudges that the palace has spent years trying to bury. Insiders claim she's been toying with the idea for months. The pressure from losing Royal Lodge, the years of humiliation, the feeling of being pushed aside, it all built up until something inside her snapped. Now she reportedly wants to tell her side of the story. And that's what scares the palace most, because Fergie isn't an outsider. She's lived inside those walls. She's seen what really happens when the cameras are off, the private arguments, the cold silences, the whispered deals that keep the royal image polished. Even the smallest details from her could spark headlines around the world. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams warned exactly that. In an interview, he said a memoir from Fergie could be very harmful, not just to the institution, but to her as well. Why? Because once you start revealing royal secrets, there's no coming back. The palace never forgets, and they never forgive. The danger for Fergie is that her credibility isn't untouchable. Over the years, she's faced public scandals, financial issues, and headlines that painted her as unreliable. If her stories sound exaggerated or vengeful, the book could backfire, turning her from victim to villain in an instant. But imagine if the stories are true. Imagine if she has evidence, letters, emails, private notes. That would make her book one of the biggest royal bombshells since Spare. And unlike Harry's memoir, which was carefully edited by lawyers, Fergie's would come straight from raw emotion, unfiltered and personal. For the palace, that's a nightmare. They can't control her, they can't stop her. And worse, they don't know what she might reveal. But the one group suffering the most right now isn't the king or his advisors. It's Fergie's daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Because this book could destroy everything they've been working to protect. For Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, life inside the royal circle has always been a balancing act. They've had to smile for the cameras, play the royal game, and quietly clean up the messes left by their parents, all while trying to prove they're not defined by their last name. And now, they're caught in the middle of the biggest storm of their lives. On one side, there's their mother, Sarah Ferguson, heartbroken, angry, and ready to fight back. On the other side, there's the palace led by King Charles, who happens to be their uncle, the very man shaping the future of the monarchy they still depend on. You can imagine the emotional chaos this creates. Beatrice and Eugenie adore their mother. They've defended her through every scandal, every headline, every embarrassing tabloid story. But they also understand how ruthless the royal system can be. One wrong move and you're cut out completely. If Fergie really goes through with this memoir, the consequences won't just hit her, they'll hit her daughters too. Royal experts say both women are deeply concerned about what their mother might reveal, because they will be the ones left to face the fallout. Think about it. If Fergie's book paints the palace in a bad light, Beatrice and Eugenie could be forced to pick a side. Support their mother publicly and risk being frozen out by the king, or stay silent and risk breaking her heart. It's an impossible choice. Behind the scenes, whispers suggest both sisters have been quietly begging their mother to reconsider. They've reportedly told her that this isn't just about her reputation, it's about their future, their husbands, their children, and their standing in the royal world. And it's not hard to see why they're terrified. The royal family's image depends on control. If one member breaks ranks, the others pay the price. Beatrice and Eugenie have worked hard to maintain peace with the palace, attending family events, supporting the king's causes, and keeping out of controversy. But if Fergie's book exposes private royal drama, all of that could vanish overnight. For them, it's not just about loyalty, it's about survival. Because in the royal world, silence is currency. And if their mother speaks too loudly, it could cost them everything. If you think Buckingham Palace is just sitting back watching this unfold, think again. The royals may project calm in public, but behind closed doors, they're already mobilizing. Because when someone threatens the crown, even indirectly, the response is never casual. King Charles has spent years trying to rebuild the monarchy's image after scandal after scandal. From the Andrew controversy to Harry's explosive memoir, every headline has chipped away at the institution's authority. And now, the idea that Fergie, the former Duchess, could drop a tell-all that drags the palace through the mud, that's the last straw. According to royal insiders, Charles's team is already taking quiet but deliberate steps to manage the situation. Leaks, briefings, strategic distancing, the royal playbook is in full motion. Whenever the palace senses danger, they don't confront it publicly, they control the narrative from the shadows. So if you've noticed a sudden wave of anonymous sources painting Fergie as unstable or unreliable, that's not a coincidence. That's the palace doing what it does best: character management. Before her side of the story even reaches the public, they're already shaping how people will view it. There are even whispers that senior advisors have privately warned publishers not to get involved in anything that might damage royal integrity. It's the same quiet pressure that once kept tabloids in line, a subtle reminder that no one wins when they go up against the monarchy. And while all this is happening, the palace is reportedly freezing Fergie out completely. No invites, no appearances, no association. It's their version of silent punishment, a way to make her feel irrelevant, isolated, and powerless before she even speaks. But if the king thinks that silence will stop her, he might be underestimating her resolve, because Fergie's been through worse: divorce, scandal, financial ruin, and somehow she always comes back. This time, though, she's not just fighting for attention, she's fighting for revenge. Still, the royals have a strategy that's worked for generations: make the other person look like the problem. If Fergie publishes that book, the palace won't respond with words, they'll respond with silence, the kind that says, "We don't engage with disgraced ex-royals." It's brutal, it's cold, but it's effective. And while this power game plays out, one question lingers. What if the book actually comes out? What if Fergie really exposes the cracks in the royal foundation? That's where the story turns from gossip into something much deeper: a fight for her own legacy. For Sarah Ferguson, this moment feels like standing on a cliff edge. One step forward, and she could either reclaim her voice or lose everything she's worked for. For decades, Fergie has lived in the royal shadows, sometimes loved, often judged, but never truly accepted. She's the woman who married into the world's most powerful family, fell spectacularly from grace, and somehow found a way to keep smiling through it all. But deep down, that smile has always hidden something: pain, regret, and maybe even resentment. Now, as the pressure mounts, she faces a brutal choice. Choice 1: stay silent, play by the palace's rules, keep her head down, avoid controversy, and live out her days quietly, still connected to the royal circle, but never fully inside it. That path would protect her daughters, her public image, and whatever dignity she still has left. Choice 2: speak out. Tell her truth, no matter who it hurts. Finally expose the stories she's kept buried for decades. The betrayals, the snubs, the whispered conversations behind gilded walls. That path could give her freedom, but at a massive cost. Because if she publishes this memoir, she won't just be burning bridges. She'll be lighting them on fire in front of the entire world. And maybe, for Fergie, that's the point. She's watched others, like Harry and Meghan, turn their pain into power. She's seen how truth-telling, even when controversial, can make you relevant again. But she also knows the backlash that follows. The palace doesn't forgive easily, and the British press forgives even less. Friends close to her say she's torn. Part of her still craves the royal approval she lost long ago, but another part of her wants to finally stop pretending. She's tired of being the polite outsider. She's tired of playing quiet. The question now isn't just what she'll do, it's whether she's ready to live with the consequences. Because once those pages go public, there's no turning back. The monarchy doesn't do second chances. And that's why the world is watching. Because whether she stays silent or finally speaks up, this decision will define how history remembers her. Not as a duchess, but as the woman who dared to challenge the crown one last time. In the end, this story isn't just about a book, a feud, or a royal eviction. It's about one woman finally deciding how she wants to be remembered. For years, Sarah Ferguson has been the forgotten Duchess, not royal enough to matter, not rebellious enough to trend. But now, as the storm builds, she's realizing something powerful. She doesn't need permission to speak anymore. If she moves forward with this memoir, it won't just expose royal secrets, it'll expose her own truth. The loneliness, the rejection, the pain of being exiled by the same family she once called home. And maybe that's what this whole thing has been about all along. Not revenge, but release. Still, the danger is real. If the book reads like a personal attack, it could ruin what's left of her reputation. The media would tear it apart, the palace would cut ties completely, and even her daughters could face backlash. But if she plays it carefully, if she writes from honesty instead of bitterness, it could be the most powerful thing she's ever done. Because love her or hate her, Fergie has survived everything they've thrown at her. Divorce, scandal, public humiliation, and yet she's still here. Still standing, still smiling, still refusing to disappear. The royals might think they've silenced her, but history has a funny way of remembering the ones who dared to speak. So, what happens now? Does Fergie press forward and publish her side of the story, or does she take the quiet road, keeping the peace to protect her family? Either way, one thing is certain: the decision she makes next could change how the world sees the monarchy forever. Because sometimes, the most dangerous person in the palace isn't the one with a crown, it's the one with a pen. So, what do you think? Should Sarah Ferguson finally tell her truth, or would that destroy the fragile peace she's managed to hold on to? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because whatever happens next, it's going to send shockwaves through the House of Windsor.